Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Psychically Speaking. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is the podcast where intuition meets real life truth with just the right dash of sass. I'm your host, Lisa Ann. Together, we'll explore, learn, and grow through meaningful moments and fresh perspectives. Today's episode is actually a follow-up to our last episode, where we chatted about reclaiming your power in the stillness. Because when we slow down, when we give ourselves permission to just be, something incredible starts to happen. Our inner knowing begins to rise to the surface. So that's what we're talking about today. Intuition. Not as something mystical or rare, but as something we all have. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. I'm going to be answering some of the most common questions I get, clearing up a few misconceptions, or what I like to refer to as my pet peeves, and offering insight on how you can start right now in this moment tuning into your own intuitive abilities. Because yes, I'm psychic, and so are you. And that doesn't mean that we have all the answers in our lives all the time. Life is messy. We're humans. And it's ever evolving. And that, my friends, is the real truth of this work. So let's dive right in, shall we? I want to start by talking about the biggest misconception, which happens to be my biggest pet peeve. And that is the fact that being psychic is something we all have. Over my 30-year career, the thing that has just set me off the most is when I constantly hear people tell me, "Oh, I'm not psychic. I can't do that. I don't have those gifts." Being psychic is not a gift. Whether you call it gut instinct, whether you call it your intuition, your inner voice, your soul's voice, whatever you call it, we all have it. I get so upset when people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm psychic. I have a special gift. I'm 5th generation on my dad's side." And the reason why I've gotten so upset about this over the years is because when someone says, "Hey, I have a special gift. I'm doing this thing that you can't do," it's taking people's power away from them using the tools that they have to improve their own lives. So that is the one thing that I get in trouble for all the time, because I'm always correcting people with that. No, it's not a gift. The gift is learning how to use it. Think of your psychic abilities, or think of your intuition, whatever you feel comfortable calling it. Think of it as a tool. For some of you, it may be a tool you've been using for years. For others, it may be a tool you just saw on a commercial and you're like, "Wow, I need that tool," right? And then you need the instructions and you need to use it and you need to practice using it. And then before you know it, it becomes your favorite tool. That is how I want you to think about your psychic abilities, okay? So remember, we're all psychic. We all have the ability to tap into it. And that is the gift part. It's the gift that you can give yourself by learning how to not only tap into your intuition, but even more importantly, learning how to trust it. Now, one of the big misconceptions or comments I get all the time is always, "Oh, it must be so great being psychic. Your life must just flow so easy." Now, those of you who have been following me for years are hysterical laughing right now, falling off your chairs, because you know that my life is definitely not a walk in the park, right? And this is why I said in the opening, life is messy. And this is such a misconception. People think, "Oh, if I start learning how to use my intuition, or if I get on a spiritual path and I learn how to meditate and I do healing work and I do all this stuff, I'm never going to have a problem. I'm never going to make a mistake, and nothing is ever going to go wrong. And I am here to give you the truth, people. That is never going to happen. We are never going to have a perfect life. We are never going to not experience sadness, loss, disappointment, because we are spiritual beings. My favorite saying, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're here to have those experiences, to learn and grow. And I am right there with you. Some of them are horrible, and I wish I never had to have them. But every experience that we have helps to form who we are. So if you can take a step back and look at this as a journey of experiences instead of a journey of good decisions and bad decisions, it will make your life easier. And just because you tap into your psychic abilities or your intuition, it doesn't mean you're going to get all the answers all the time. Why? Because we're human beings. And if we got all the answers, we would take some serious shortcuts, and then we wouldn't have the experiences that we were meant to have. And it really is as simple as that. Now, here's the next thing that I want to talk about. And I think this is the biggest block where people get stuck the most, right? They do all this work to tap into their intuition. They do meditation and healing work, and they work with crystals and oils, and they do yoga, and they do all of this stuff. And then as soon as something happens and they can't get an answer, they go, oh, this doesn't work, and they stop doing it. So I want you to really think about what I just said. We are human beings we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not meant to have all the answers in that moment. So when you're meditating or whatever your choice of how to connect with your intuition is, and you're trying to get guidance and you're trying to get answers and you're not getting them, don't give up. The timing may not be right for you to completely understand the situation. The other huge misconception I think that people have is when you tap into your intuition, now you can use it to just get everyone around you to do what you want. And let me tell you, that is not happening, okay? We have to remember people have free will, right? Whether it's using your intuition or using your healing abilities, that doesn't mean that you are going to be able to change or rescue people that do not want to change or be rescued, right? When you tap into your intuition, yes, you absolutely can see and feel things about people and know how to guide them and help them, but they have free will. So if they don't want to change, or if they don't want to do the things that they have to do to make those improvements, that is not a reflection on you. One of the things that really breaks my heart to this day, in all the years that I've been doing this work, is when people come to me and say, I'm so in touch with my intuition, and I was talking to a friend of mine and I just felt this and I shared it with them and it didn't help them at all. And, the negative thing in their life still happened, and they're taking on all of the responsibility. And I would love people to just think of themselves in a different way. We are seed planters, right? It's like your job when you tap into your intuition, whether it's with loved ones or friends, when you have information or somebody's talking to you and you have information that you feel can be helpful to them, if they decide to not listen to it, that's not on you, right? You've shared the guidance, you've shared the information. So that is a seed planter. And that is what your goal is to plant the seed. And listen, I've learned from personal experience that just because somebody might not understand the message or want to hear the message or follow the message that you're giving them, in that moment, it doesn't mean that something might not change later on down the road. Which leads me to the next big pet peeve that I have. And this is just something that I have always felt in my own life. So whether it's right or wrong, I'm just sharing my own philosophies. When I first started doing this work, it was something that just happened to me. Okay, many of you do know the story. My grandmother had passed away very suddenly, started coming to me in dreams. And then as life kind of progressed, I started just doing meditation and all kinds of stuff. And it just really, the floodgates just opened up with my intuition. So when I first started, I really honestly did not know what the heck was happening to me. And I certainly was not comfortable enough with what was happening, let alone trying to figure out what information should I share and what information should I not share. So in the work that I do, I share everything that I get. If I am being told something in a session, I feel like I would not be getting that information if I wasn't supposed to share it. So you will never hear me say, I do a session, I give you information, somebody calls me 3 months later and goes, oh, this happened and it didn't come up in session. And I turn around and go, oh yeah, I didn't think you were ready to hear that. You will never hear me say that. Whatever information I get is the information that I give, because I am a human being like you. And it's not my job to filter what you should be getting. Whatever your guides, your angels, your loved ones, wherever you believe the information comes from. If I'm getting it, I'm giving it. Which leads me to my next thing. When you see all this stuff on television, to this day, this makes me crazy. So I've done television, paranormal stuff and things like that. And one of the things that I've learned is with television, anything that you do, there are so many release forms that have to be signed. We would be filming and then we'd be right at the end and someone would walk down the sidewalk, and now we either have to refilm or we have to get their permission. They have to sign a release form. Nobody is just randomly going up to people and delivering messages. I know it looks like that on these shows, but I'm telling you, they're going in ahead of time and they're getting permission. And why am I bringing this up? Because this is just my own belief system. I do not walk around reading people all day. Okay? And there's a few reasons for that. One, because I respect this ability that I've tapped into and that I've fine-tuned, and I respect people's privacy, and I will not read for someone unless they ask me to, right? So when I'm out and about in my daily life, I'm not like looking around the store going, oh, look, he's cheating on her. Oh, look, she cheats on her taxes. Oh, look, I'm not doing that, all right? Quite frankly, I have enough stuff going on in my own life that I don't need to be worried about what's going on in everybody else's life, right? That's always been my ongoing joke. I have enough trouble keeping myself focused, right? So I do not randomly walk around reading people. And this is where I always get everybody yelling at me. And I just think that doing that is more about being stuck in ego, right? It's like, oh, look, I'm going to, give you a message. So that's just my own philosophy. And it's something that I don't do. I always tell the story. Years ago, I was invited to a friend's house. And I didn't know, I knew my friends, but I didn't know like all of their friends, right? So I get to this event that she was having. And someone turned around and said, oh, where's so-and-so? And my friend turns around to the person and says, oh, she was supposed to come, but then she found out Lisa Ann was here and she refused to come. And I looked at everybody, I'm like, I don't even know the person. Like, why would they not come because I'm there? And she goes, well, because you're a psychic. And I go, but we're all psychic. Like, what does that have to do with anything? And she literally looked at me. She goes, she was afraid you would be able to read her. And I just always remember that because I thought it was the silliest thing I have ever heard in my life. And that is when my go-to response that I still use to this day became about, which was, I have enough things in my own life. I quite frankly am not worried about what's going on in everybody else's life on my day off when I am trying to enjoy myself. So, big pet peeve of mine. Now, let's talk about when you start tapping into your intuition, okay? Because I want to give you some insight on how you can start tuning into your own abilities. And I have to tell you, it's actually so much simpler than people make it, right? It is just about quieting the mind. So again, 30 years ago, I started by saying, I don't care if you are trying to reduce stress, if you want to increase your productivity at work, or if you want to become the next, I used to say Sylvia Browne or James Van Praagh back in the day, the famous psychics. You have to start with meditation. Because when we meditate, we quiet our minds. And tapping into your psychic abilities, your intuition, is all about getting quiet so that you can listen, feel, hear, know. Now, there's different types of meditation. There can be the meditation where you're sitting in a room and focusing on breathing, guided meditation, walking meditation, doing yoga, tai chi. There's so many different forms of meditation. So find the one that is right for you. A lot of times when I do coaching and I'm working with clients, I may tell them, I don't want you doing a guided meditation. I want you to go do Tai Chi. Or I want you to do a walking meditation where you're listening to hemi-syncs or binaural beats. Because sometimes people's minds just refuse to quiet down. So if I say to them, hey, I just want you to sit there and meditate for an hour, they're not going to do it because it's going to become so frustrating to them. So this is where that intuition comes in, right? Being able to sit with a client and go, okay, this person's personality, here's going to be the best path for them to take to learn how to tap into their own abilities. It's like learning anything. I am a very visual person. If you hand me a manual, I am like a complete moron. I don't know what it is. That part of my brain just does not function properly. I remember my first website that I ever did. I had a friend of mine come over and he kept sending me things in emails, right? And this was back in the day when you did coding and stuff, right? I can't even, what was that? I'm trying to think of what that Angel something it was called. I don't even remember, but you had to do coding and stuff. So he would send me emails and try to explain it. And I had no clue as to what this man was talking about. So he came over one day and he sat down and he showed me what he was trying to explain. I tell you, I am not making this up. The next day I had the whole website done and he came back to help me and he was like, who did this for you? I go, I did it. He's like, how did you do this? I go, well, you just showed me yesterday. And it was so funny because he's like, yeah, but I've been trying to email you for a month and you're not understanding anything. So my point is that we all process information differently. And what I find happens when people are trying to work with their own intuition, they'll watch a video or they'll see someone talk about a way to do it. And if that doesn't work for them, instead of them going, okay, let me try the next thing, they get, oh, I'm not intuitive, I'm not psychic. So stop doing that, right? If you try it one way and those techniques are not working, move on to the next one. If I had to base everything I've learned how to do on reading manuals, I would have done nothing when I'm telling you. To this day, I am the same way. Watch a video, have someone show it to me. I'm like a genius level. Read it in a manual, no idea. So work with the way that you receive information. Stop trying to learn it other people's ways, okay? That is my best tip on when you're trying to fine-tune your skills. And by the way, that's the word I want you using. I want you to look at fine-tuning your intuition. I want you to tell yourself, I'm fine-tuning my psychic abilities, not I'm learning, because you already have all of these abilities inside of you. You're just learning how to pay attention to them more. And again, that is the gift part, okay? The other thing that I want to talk about when it comes to misconceptions, and I always love this, it's very funny to me how people in different fields separate things, right? So, where we just moved from, there was a military base there. So I got to work with a lot of pretty amazing people who we need to be very appreciative of, because they really do some amazing work to keep us safe. But that's a whole nother podcast. But it would be interesting, because sometimes when I would talk to people, they would say to me, oh, I don't know if I really believe in this. And then when I would ask them, let me ask you something. When you're out in the field and you're, with this group of people that you are all responsible for each other, and there's different situations coming up. How are you working through that? Like, yes, you go through training for, if this situation happens, you have to do this, or, you learn the basics of how to drive the vehicles or how to operate the machinery or how to shoot a gun. Like that's learning skill sets of how to do stuff. But how do you really keep yourself safe, right? And it's all about them trusting their gut instinct. So it's so amazing, because it doesn't really matter what field you're in. We just have different terminology for it. And I have to tell you, I have said since day one, it's such an awesome time to be alive right now, because there's just so much going on with science. And it's so amazing, because so many of the things that I have talked about from 30 years ago, that I have to be honest with you, when I would get this information in meditations, I would even think I was crazy, right? Just, think about it and you could do it. I'm like the queen of manifesting, right? But now science is so amazing. There's so much with neuroscience and the power of the mind, right? There's so much research being done on how, if one person is really paying attention to their thoughts and only allowing those positive thoughts, how their life is, as opposed to somebody who's caught in anger and sadness and how their lives unfold. So my wish, my challenge for you this week is to think about a way that you will feel comfortable tapping into your own intuition, right? Think about what we said. You're going to start by quieting the mind. So for you, maybe that's doing a guided meditation. For you, maybe that's doing a walking meditation. Or if you're someone that has a hard time sitting still, maybe start with Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga, but find a way to take that first step. And I'm going to tell you, there are some free little short meditations on the Spirit Quest YouTube channel. So you can check that out, Spirit Quest NC, and maybe start there. So as we wrap up today's episode, I hope this conversation reminded you that being intuitive isn't about being psychic in some elite way. It's about being human. It's about being present and being tuned in. Your inner knowing is always there. It's waiting to guide you, not with every answer, but with enough clarity to take the next step. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware, being willing, and being open. So wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just starting to notice those nudges or you've been walking this path for a while, know that you're not alone. And know that you are far more connected than you might realize. Keep listening, keep trusting, and most importantly, keep showing up for yourself. Thank you for joining me today on Psychically Speaking. If you love this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. And remember to join me for my free live weekly Psychically Speaking Live via Zoom. For more information on that, you can visit spiritquestnc.com. Until next time, take care of yourself, embrace your light, trust your intuition, and keep growing.